think I gotta get my headphones hooked up here. Mio tipskan sick, akyo. Just getting fired up here. Tagotana sai. Misku atsu waskagani. Iguamina. I already checked my restream status on TikTok. Magamina, I gotta wait a few more hours to reapply, so it is what it is. So we're gonna try this setup tonight. Just got back from Saskatoon, recording some more texts, more stories, more texts, recording more stories with Wes. All right. Hey, thanks for the likes. Tonight we're streaming on, let me have a look here. TikTok on my phone. I'm streaming on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch tonight. So if you want to tune in on any of those platforms, I'm gonna have to add links in. You can just kind of think you can. I don't know if I'll show up on Google. I should tweak my. Give me a second here. We'll do that together. TikTok. I have to mute this site. Oh no, it's good. Go to my profile. Oh, Linktree. That's what I was thinking. We'll go update my Linktree. Let's do it right now. Live. We'll go clean this up. Put the links in. I'll have to find my Twitch link. I know I set this up a while ago because I was trying to do some streaming. So you could find me on YouTube in my link. If you're on TikTok, my YouTube link's in my bio. And on Facebook, it's just under Keanu. Ghost mode. Yeah, you can find my YouTube right here. And let me see where I am on Twitch. I think I'm signed in. Where's my channel? I think I'm gonna start doing Twitch as well. We did like a gaming stream in the middle of the week. Let me get logged in here. I did like a gaming related stream in the middle of the week. So hopefully that'll unlock. TikTok, but I'm banned for another like 2 or 3 hours tonight. Is what it is. So let's add, I'll call this one Twitch channel. Did it work? Yes, no? There we go. I'll just put it at the bottom because it, and we'll rename it to Sunday live stream on Twitch. That one there, and then I guess I could put the Facebook page link too. One sec, just so all the live stream stuff is there. Man, had a good week at Sweetgrass. Sorry, it's Saskatoon. Mr. Saskatoon. In Saskatoon, in Saskatchewan. And we'll add another link here. Oh, my Facebook's right there. Where does that go, I wonder? Yeah, Facebook's right there, but I'll add it anyway. paste the link in. Link. And on Facebook. So put that one at the bottom too. I don't think I need to save these. I think it just works. Copy. Let's double check that they're there. Yeah, there we go. So there's my YouTube live stream on Twitch and on Facebook. Because the audio will be better there tonight. Because I can actually send the audio through. Well, we'll try this on the phone. Hey, that's Renee. I also have to. Baby says I'm on time this week. If I miss your comment, just comment again. I'm operating a whole whack of equipment this week, so we'll just see how this works. Now, in order to play a region, I have to mute I have to mute my mic so it doesn't double play, and then need to unmute it. So if it seems like I'm talking on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, but you can't hear me, just drop a comment and be like, you're muted, because I will probably forget. So, you know what happened this week that was really cool? On the other night while I was sitting with Wes, after we'd recorded, it was on Friday night, I was like, hey, we're just kind of done, because he told some stories. Stories get a little like heavy sometimes, or like intense. And I was like, hey, maybe let's go through. Oh, I missed one. Let's go through. There's a bunch of issues on this transcription we're doing, and let's go clear them all out. And we did. He helped me resolve. I obviously missed one. I'm gonna have to build a filter in here so I can just filter by specific issue types. That should be pretty straightforward. But he basically we went through and he helped me resolve all of the issues. That one's just spelled wrong. This one here I missed. Yeah, let's listen to that one. Mantunawake. Is that loud enough on TikTok? Let me know if you can hear that okay. I'll play it again. One second, I gotta change my audio device so that it plays on the speakers. I think it's that one. Speakers, headphones, yeah, use this for output. Okay, let's try that again. Tisqua. So yeah, I missed this one, but that's the only one I missed. Made me realize in the issue browser, well, it's not really a browser, the issue section, I really need to make this part down here more accessible, like some drop downs or something. Oh, CC Guanapio, just starting off heavy. How would you explain conjunct mode? Man, let's get into it. Yeah, that's fine. So, think of it this way, okay? We'll spend a couple minutes on conjunct mode. One sec, let me get a document open, and then we'll also open up a story, okay? Let me get this over here. Actually, let me just double check. I gotta move this over to the side so that it shows up on the phone. Okay, just go. Maybe about like, that's not bad, eh? Bump up the font a bit, or like, so that's okay there. Yeah, that seems okay. Sorry, every time I change this window, I've got to go back and double check. I've got multiple things going on here. So, and then the other thing we'll do is we'll pop open, say, and we'll just use Bloomfield maybe. I'm going to pick that story. I was reading this with Wes the other day. So the short version is, if you say, oh, it's hilarious that the AI thinks we're still talking about gaming in Saskatoon. It's hilarious. Just how broken AI is. Let's go right down to the bottom and we'll pick a new spot here. If you say Atsimo, not the command Atsimo, but like that one is telling a story. That one tells a story, or it could be like news, or just like recounts something, like reports on something, I guess you could say. But then in the conjunct, what we call the conjunct, e atsimut. So if you use this on its own in isolation, sometimes they say that's like the ing version of a word. Okay, so you could say that one is telling a story. If you use the word in isolation, that's like eatimuyan, I'm telling a story. Nitatsamun, I told a story. I tell a story or I told a story. If you say ningiatsamun, that specifically puts it in the past. But sometimes you can say it this way and it's like nitatsamun, I told a story. I tell a story. That one tells a story. Atsamu. Eatsamut. This is what they call the conjunct, this one here. So on its own, it's sort of like the ing, or another way you could interpret that is like, as that one tells a story, right? In a narrative, or in like a story, okay, the conjunct, all that really means, I don't know what the definition of conjunct is, but it needs to be attached to something to make sense, okay? Because if you just said this sentence on its own, as that one tells a story, it doesn't make sense. Or it could also be when. When they told a story, which can be when they were telling a story, I guess you'd say it that. When they were telling a story. It can be used that way as well. But if you say either of these, they don't make sense on their own, right? You're missing information. So like if we said that this was like a phrase, and we'll call this phrase B, okay? We'll say this phrase here, when that one was telling a story, or as that one tells a story. We'll call that phrase B. It actually belongs to a bigger context, I'll say. And the A part could be something like, think about what would complete this sentence. When they were telling a story, it started raining. Let's say that. It started raining. Okay? So then this might be the A part. This is in the language, or even in English, you could say this. It started raining. That's a complete sentence. That is a complete sentence. But when they were telling a story is not a complete sentence. It needs something else to be complete. Does that make sense? So in this case, it actually kind of looks like this, right? There's B and then there's A. A can stand alone on its own, but B needs the rest of a sentence to be complete. And and to complete that sentence, you could say A atsimut. Atekimuan. Okay, that might be that. That Atekimuan is a complete sentence. It's in the process of raining. It begins raining. Maybe you'd say it that way. It's beginning to rain. Atekimuan, but eatsimut, or this might even make more sense the other way around. You'd probably say, let's do it the other way. A kimuak. And it would be a kimuaik. Let me look that one up because I'm not even sure, because it needs to actually be. I learned about this the other day. Kimuan, and in the oh, we don't want the noun, we want the verb. Kimuan. A kimuaniek, that's the one we want there. A kimuaniek. So you could say this to flip them around. Okay, this is not cooperating. A kimuaniek atsimo, as it began to rain, or when it was raining, as it was raining, that one told a story. So this is the conjunct, and all that means is that it's not a complete sentence on its own when it's in a narrative, when it's in a story, or it's in a overall bigger sentence. Does that make sense? And so if we look at a story generally, and this isn't like a solid rule, but you see it frequently where if we break let me just pick one. I'm just trying to pick. Typically what will happen is, not to get into the linguistics, but there's this paper by a lady named Claire Cook, I think, and she talks about this relationship between words that are independent and words that are in the conjunct, and then she gets into like subordinate clauses and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into it, but one of the things, wait for the bird alarm to stop. One of the things that she talks about is these independent phrases, like when we said atsimo or kimuan, like when you're reading a story, start looking for those verbs that are in the independent. Right? So if we take this whole passage, okay, I'm just going to grab the whole thing out of this story. I'm going to drop it in here. And let's identify everything that is in the independent mode and everything that is in the conjunct mode, right? So we'll ignore the nouns. So here's conjunct. I don't know, we can underline those ones, I guess. Conjunct. So here's one whole, and I'll break these down by sentence. There's one sentence. Here's another sentence. And again, this isn't a perfect rule, but this is sort of the way I focus on this. Okay, so this one is the independent mode, and then there's conjunct, and then there's conjunct, okay? And then I think this one only has kitato ego tenisto opoasimuak uskaniguak espuiteitzik. So that one's conjunct. So there's no independent though. Eogo. So here's independent, conjunct. These are the best examples, but it does sort of support what Claire was saying in her paper, is that the verbs that are these independent verbs, they're not in the conjunct mode. They're sort of like the anchor for the sentence or the focus. Okay, so that's kind of the focus. So this information here, is it to go along with someone? Let's look that one up. So forget that. I thought they accompanied them. Okay. So went along with them, and they moved, like they were moving camp, I guess. But like this is like supplemental information. So when you get into, not to like really break it down, but the conjunct is sort of like supplemental information that's supporting that anchoring phrase. And it's hard to explain that without getting into kind of linguistic-y stuff that honestly I don't fully understand. But what you do need to know is that like Mihtetuak is a complete sentence on its own. But in context, something like this is supplementing or supporting the context with additional information. That's the way I think of it, if that makes sense. Sisiguanapeo says, I think you read those sentences by Uncle Neil Redcrow, and in there he has conjunct in lieu of person indicators. I don't know if I understand what you're getting at. Uncle Neil. I'm going to start calling that Uncle Neil. Let's look at another sentence and see if we can find Gawapmatik no Tsawis. That's funny. I'm going to call him Uncle Neil from now on. Ogiuxkanigu akanistik tatwe mane e sagewe tik Gawapmatik piak aya tsiinwa piak mistatumai kitapmatik isoma iwiani tagihit egone. So there's that. Again, this is kind of like the anchoring phrase. That's just the way I understand it. I don't necessarily know that that's the right way, but if you break it down, the idea is that like if it's in a narrative or a story, then the conjunct mode is supporting information. Sisiguanapeo says, like, I think I get it, but I wish I had the papers in front of. I'll try to look for them, copy and paste them. Did you get some papers from Neil, like some handouts or something? It would be interesting to. I was actually going to see if Neil was free and like get him on a Zoom or something, because that'd be kind of fun to get him here and like. I want to do that if I ever get my. I have such a wacky, complicated setup because we're doing this on TikTok on my phone, but I'm using my desktop to stream everywhere else, which is interesting. Yeah, he sent them when I did his intermediate class in the winter. Okay, interesting. I might even have those on my email now that I think about it. If you find the... I don't even know if you could get those to me in a way that wasn't complicated right now. Yeah. We can maybe even like just come back to them for next week or something. Might be interesting. Because yeah, I'd love to. I still learn, like I talk to Neil like regularly, right? We were just chatting today about this other. I was listening to because I just got back from Saskatoon. I was just in Saskatoon with Wes again, and we got another like I don't know 7 or 8 hours of video again. So, and I was just asking him, like, there's some words in there, like, have you ever heard these before? But what was super cool about being there was Wes helped me figure out a bunch of stuff. Let me see if I can find one. Oh, let me find that one that was really, let me see if I can find it. Because I was really stuck on this word. And then as soon as... he said it in English what it was. Jeez, I wonder if I can... I'm going to have to go to the resolved issues. Because it's in here somewhere. No. I'll just scroll through these a little bit. There were a couple of them that were just like... kind of hilarious. Was it that one? No, I don't think so. I'll just... We resolved 40 issues while we were sitting there in about like 20 minutes. just went through and I would play it for Wes, and he would just like tell me what he said basically. No, geez, I can't even find it now. That's okay. Let's do a little transcribing here. But basically, I was hearing this word that didn't really exist, and I realized what it was he was saying ga bim, which he says a lot. Like, let me find an example here. If you listen to these stories, and I hear this from lots of other fluent speakers too, Seinapan, like especially older fluent speakers, they use bim a lot. And I was asking Wes about that. I was like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? Can you, that bim on its own, like, can you describe, how does that change what it is that you're saying? And he's like, it's like continuing or continually. Because in the dictionary, it's like along in a linear progression. It's like, what does that even mean? Continuing through space and or time. It's like so not helpful. So not helpful. Continuing through space and or time. It's like, I'm gonna drop that right in my my translation for sure. Just trying to find a good example here. Actually, we can search. One sec. Because he says it all the time. Goppen, goppen, goppen. You hear it all the time. Here's one.
Sampo guys, okay mau. Nutun tuuki mau, ne kaitoan. Kagip niganista, si so magikoi.
Gagip niganista. Gagip niganista just sounds like bim. But like when he's telling a story, he'll just say it like, he'll use it like every other word sometimes. And yeah, it's just like for the longest time. And I've even talked with Neil about that like a whole bunch of times. Like, what does that even mean? Sisi guanapeo eate wa wangiskisian mana eate geteuian. I'm beginning to forget as I get older, I guess I would sort of interpret that. I forget. It's another one of those ones that's tricky. It's like it can just mean like in the process of something, but it can also mean like kind of like something starting. Atipipo. Something like that. That's okay. We'll just have to like get in a chat sometime and figure it out. You know what is interesting though, like it doesn't matter. Like you can get into like the linguistics, or you can get into the deep like trying to define exactly what something means, like a definition or a linguistic whatever. Like you can get really deep into that. If it's helpful, at some point it's like this endless rabbit hole. In my experience anyway, like it just like gets deeper and deeper and deeper because we're trying to break apart really nuanced things. And what happens, in my experience, what happens is things just get really hard to describe in English. Because if you listen to the language, and this is only happening to me a little bit now, where I will listen to something that Wes talks about, or I'll listen to a story. I was listening to some stuff on the way back from Saskatoon, and it's like, I understand what's being said, but I don't know how to describe it in English. It makes sense in the language. Does that make sense? Like it's, and so the only thing I have to offer for that is like I really honestly believe that the study is important. Like we should be like, keep looking up words, keep trying to understand these things or whatever. But also we should be listening to the language a lot. I'm starting to think about this now. Like I listened to Nihiuiwan all the way from Saskatoon all the way to Edmonton. I re-listened to all of the stories that I'd put, including this one, on YouTube. And when they were done, then I switched to some other tapes that I had and I just listened to them. And I'm like, what was super interesting about that is I'm just getting back to those Tyrone Tatusas tapes, and I'm like, I'm starting to understand these. Like I'm in a place where I might be ready to work on these because I can understand a lot of what they're saying. And that's only, and part of that is just from having sat with Wes this summer, like literally after recording 12 hours of him speaking in the language, I'm like, I've got so much more language at the end of this session than I did when we started. I went back and started listening to those again. I'm like, okay, I know some of those words now. Like, I don't know why they make sense now. Some of them I've asked him about, but some of them just sort of, they're related to other words that I already know, and just the context gave them meaning. Like it's super interesting. I have a tape player at home that I use for digitizing old tapes. I'm just getting caught up comments here. Tisqua. Gooden Girl says, I heard a meaning of the word trauma before. It meant walking with them in their pain. I don't know if I've heard that. Is there a Cree word for charmer? You'd have to ask a fluent speaker. I don't know. I might have heard something, but I'm not sure. CC Guanapeo says, yeah, I'm trying to avoid all those kinds of rules because how complicated they are. And it just it's a rabbit hole that never ends. B. Dance. Oh, Manantonia. Kimaga. Gooden Girl. That is why elders should always have interpreters so they can say what they want to say. Yeah, it's interesting. Even everybody I know that interprets anything is always like, it just makes sense in the language. So like, I don't disagree with that, but I don't want somebody to necessarily, like, I want to actually understand it. I want to understand it in the language. And what's interesting is, again, that happened again this time when I was sitting with Wes recording. I stopped interpreting I stopped interpreting in my mind what he was saying, and I just listened. It happened a little bit more naturally this time, where I was just like, and there was a temptation in there to be like, or I'd run into a word and I'd be like, oh, what does that word mean? And I'm like, okay, I think it means that, but we'll just keep going. I would stop thinking about it and just listen to what he said. And there was one story there here. He's talking about, he'll get into some stuff and use a whole bunch of words that I don't know. And so I had a little bit harder time following. But when he told the creation story about Chipstaguan, the rolling head story, and I have it, and I'm going to put it on YouTube. And I understood like just about the whole story. Like it was awesome. There's another sentence from Cici Guanapu. By the way, if you have old tapes and you want to digitize them, let me know. Just reach out. I've got a professional rig and can get them onto like a USB stick or something for you. So Cici Guanapio, there's a ni in there, a nigiskin wahama gini hiwi, when that doesn't make sense to me. Kichigiskin omato gamgok megwats maga ninisto sin apsis. The last part makes sense. The first part is mixed. You've got two different modes in that. If you're learning nigiskano hamagan, no niskano again nigiskano hamagusin is how I would say that. Nigiskano hamagusin, or egiskano hamagusian. I'm like learning, or I'm going to school maybe. Shadow says, oh, that's in relation to the word for charmer. Yeah, I don't know. B asks, are you in online Cree classes that are held on Mondays? No, I signed up for a class through Ganiasik, and I've just been flat out busy. I wanted to go because they're using I think that's the one Ben and Maggie are doing, and they're using like a root word method, like morphology. And I wanted to go see what they're doing, but I've just been too busy. Excuse me. Too busy. I used to go to as many classes as I could, and I just haven't had time. That's pretty cool. They did a presentation at Ganyasek this summer about like just getting into that a little bit, and I think that's really like if we're gonna get like I think there's good value there because you can learn a bunch of. I mean, it happens a little bit for me naturally, or it does for like learners naturally. When you know a word, if you know a word, I'm trying to think of one. Because I heard a word today where it's like, oh, I think I know what that means because I know that first part from another word and I know that last part from another word, from two different words, and when I put them together, I think I know what that means. And that's basically the basis of root word method, is you have a bunch of small pieces. Is that my kid or is that a bird? Oh, kid's thumping on the wall. Let's do some, B says, I learned the word chair through them, but I can't spell it, but I can say it. De Dupwin. And the cool thing about that, did I have what is that kid doing? De Dupwin. It looks like this. It's got ape in there. Upwin, which would be like sitting. De tape, which is to sit on something. Traditionally would be a horse, I think, or to mount something. De tape, de tapun. What is that kid doing? De tapu. Mount, ride on horseback, to sit on something. De tapu. Yeah. Some comments in this live were filtered to protect the community's experience. Obviously, if you're going to call me names, you should do it in the language at least. Hey. I always say. Okay, let's transcribe a little bit. I'm just going to make sure. If you're following along on Facebook or Twitch or YouTube, would you mind dropping me a comment just to let me know you're there? Let me know the stream's going good, the audio's good, and all of that kind of stuff. So in conjunct, the person indicators change the topic or action or, okay, is that what you meant before? So yes, that definitely happens. We can spend another minute on that. The person indicators change, okay? So if I'm writing, it's just like the same as independent mode. A tapian, long A. Neil writes this different because he doesn't like the short A version of this. I would say as I ride or I am riding. That's me. A te tapian. For you, that would be a te tapiin. As you ride. Is this the direction you were thinking, Sisiguan? Is this the indicators? Okay, good. And then this one here, a te tapit, that one, as that one rides. And then a te tapiak, that's as we ride, but not you. That's the, and so these are the markers for these. 1S, right, 2S, that third person. Then this next one here, the third person plural, there's two ways, depending where you go, there's actually two ways to say that. A te tapitsik, we say in like southern plains, as they, plural, ride. But the other way you can say that is a te tapitwao, which is like a northern variation. I think that's like northern Y. And then maybe TH says it that way too. I can't remember. A te tapiak, that's what they call a one plural exclusive. That means us but not you. A te tapiak. And that can sound very similar to what they call the inclusive. They mark that with a 2-1. has a short A, ete tapia, as we ride. So the first one is exclusive, and the second one is inclusive. That means you as well, right? We're talking about and then there's all of us. Oh, yeah, sorry, this one is all of us. Then there's all of y'all, ete tapiek. And then there's one, ete tapitik, we did that one already. And then there's this other one, this other person, ete tapiet, as that other one rides, as y'all ride. I think that's it. There should be 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and those correspond with your pronouns, basically, right? Nia, kia, wia, wow, nianan, kianu, kiawao. And then this other one doesn't really have a, maybe you could say like awia. I don't know if you could say that. If you want to, I have a copy of this. If you Google Cree decoder ring, that's this thing here, these summary paradigm tables. If you Google Cree decoder ring and you go to Arden's site and you go down here and you look at this chart that's made by Ben, this is the Y dialect one here. If we have a look at this, okay, all of those ones we just talked about right now, they're right here. Ete tapian, ete tapian, ete tapit, ete tapiak, ete tapiach, ete tapiek, ete tapchik. But this one again can be ete tapitwao, is a variation in ete tapiet. When you get into these ones, if you're studying your VAIs, that's what type of verb that is, what they call animate and transitive. There's only 16 of them, honestly. There's the independent mode. There's 8 there. Then there's 8 in the conjunct. And if this sort of study works for you, yeah, definitely do it. Just get them out of the way. The future ones over on the side here, they're exactly the same for the most part as the conjunct. You just drop the E and you add an I to the end. That's it. So then, and you hear this a lot. Te tapiane, if I ride. Te tapiane, if you ride. Te tapitse, if that one rides. Or when, it could be when as well. Te tapiake, te tapiake, te tapiego, te tapitwawe, if those ones ride. Te tapietse, if that other one rides, or when that other one rides. So this is, you can sort of cram through those. And then the same when you get into the VTI, same thing. There's only really 16, because these ones, the same thing. If you know these ones, you can figure these ones out real easy. And there's just patterns. And the VAI, I'm honestly still working on some of these ones. The hard ones for me were this one here, which is the transitive chart. There's a little bit more work in here because you have direction. You have ones that go this way, and then you also have ones that go this way because you have so many people involved. But we can do that on another live. That's, yeah. B asks, you can find this if you Google, I'll put it here. Google Cree decoder ring. If you go Google Cree decoder ring, it'll show up. It's this one here, Summary Paradigm Tables. It's at the Cree Literacy Network. Okay. Hey, got some comments on Facebook. Brandon, good evening. Mutepskanse, thanks for the comment. Hope the audio is coming through. We're going to transcribe in a minute. I promise we'll get there. We're just working on some grammar right now. Summary paradigm tables, if you go there, you can find that on that page. Just scroll down. There's actually the TH dialect chart is there, and then below is the, or sorry, no, Y dialect chart is at the top, and then the TH dialect chart also, because there's a little bit of variation between TH and Y. But I carried this around in my back pocket for like 2 years, just trying to get this part down. And honestly, I still look at these every once in a while and be like, what is that? What is that conjugation? Because you can't, and let's do a couple actually, right? Like let's look at some of these. This one here. Ekitapmatik. What does that mean? Well, I know it's kitapmeo because I know the word. Kitapmeo, which is to watch somebody, look at somebody or watch somebody. Okay. But if we go to the chart, what does that mean? If we look at this, kitapmeo, well, let's do it this way. Because the problem with transitives, just to get into it really briefly, the problem with the challenge, I'll say, not the problem, the challenge with transitives is if you go back to these ones we just went through, there's only one person involved, right? One pronoun, I'll say. There's one pronoun involved. It could be me, could be you, could be us, could be them, but there's still only one. But when we get into VTAs, the transitive one that involves multiple groups of people, now all of a sudden we have 2 groups of pronouns, right? And they can go both directions, right? We have a group that goes this way, and then we have that way. And in the case of that word we just looked at, okay, because I know this, I already know what that means is this one, actually that's plural, to that. So it's those ones observed some other one or some other ones. Okay. And if you want to, I did a whole video on how to get into this portion of the chart. And I talk about, I'll see if I can find it here. I got to get back to my link tree, and then I got to get to my YouTube, and then I got to get to the video. Okay, so if you go to my YouTube, and then you go to my videos, and it's down there somewhere. It's probably at the bottom because I've done a bunch. This one right here, the VTA verb conjugation, that's the one. And this one here, if you get into that video, I don't want to double play go back to the beginning, and I do a really quick review on what are the different types of verbs, what do they mean. Then we talk about pronouns, and we go through all of those different pronouns and what they mean, right? Because the pronouns like nianan, kiawao, kiano, what does that mean? And then these markers, because we kind of need to know those a little bit before we get into the chart. Because once you get into the chart, and then I talk about directionality, because we're talking about VTAs, right? We talk about the directionality, we talk about why things work a certain way. But once you get into the chart, you need to understand those numbers for those pronouns, right? Like you need to know what they are in order for that to make sense. So, assuming that we know this one here is 3 plural, okay, those ones looked at or watched that other one. So if we know that, we can go in here, okay, and it's in conjunct, so it's the second column over here. There's 3 plural, and there's 3 obviate, and we know the direction is this way, so this is the conjugation right there, kitapmatik, okay. So this chart is kind of overwhelming to get into. It's a little overwhelming to get into, but once you understand how it works and unlock the chart a little bit, then it makes sense. And then if it was the other way, let's just do that. If it was this one's, but the direction was the other way. So instead of these ones are like watching or looking at those other ones, if the other ones are looking back at them, okay, that changes the direction. Now we're going to use the orange boxes, because the blue boxes go this way The orange boxes go this way, so we do the same thing. We go 3 obviate to 3 plural. It's still in the conjunct, so that puts us in the middle of column, so that's going to be this box right here. So it's going to be ekitapum egotik, ekitapum egotik. Right? You're just kind of building the words together like Lego, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. I didn't want to, I didn't think we'd get into grammar and paradigm charts tonight, but that's where we are. YBNPC says, having trouble loading the video on Twitch? Oh, that sucks. If there's an issue on Twitch, yeah, I don't know what's going on Twitch. Reload player. I might have an issue with. Hold on, let me shut Twitch off and turn it back on again and see if that helps. See if I can go. That's Twitch. Off. On. Let's see what that does. And you know what? I wonder if I have bad credentials on Twitch. That could be the issue. Let me just double check that real quick. If I can fix this in 30 seconds, maybe that'll help. Prime channels, security, notifications, connections. No, that can't be. I literally just connected it with credentials. Yeah, I'm sorry. Twitch might just be out for tonight. What we'll do is I'll get re-authenticated and see if I can get it working for next week. Apologies. I am still streaming on YouTube and on Facebook for now. Ryan B, how do you say brave one? Well, brave, I mean, the word for brave is, I mean, you could say napeo is a word for brave. We use that now today to mean like a man or male or something. But it can also be interpreted as brave. But then there's also napekasu, to act brave or to be brave. But then there's the onapekasuinuak, which is a totally different. I guess napekasuinu would be the word probably you're looking for, but that has specific connotations traditionally, I would think. Napekasuinu. And Les Skinner explained this to me in a very specific way. Yeah. So you can ask Les, if you know Les, you can ask him about that. Excuse me. Let's do some transcribing. Let's transcribe something. I want to, I'm super excited. We are 30 minutes and 13 seconds into this story. Oh, I need to reload it. I gotta figure, I think the secure link expires after a certain amount of time is why it does that. There's that nipache. If we go and look at that, we can grab that. That's if or when. And that comes from nipao in the conjunct enipat, if that one sleeps. This is so much worse on that one. We'll do it on this one. Enipat. But then that T turns into a C is just sort of a rule we used to remember that. Nipatse, if that one sleeps or when that one sleeps. Bonjour. Pitagwe. We're just getting into this transcription. I have to mute the audio. I have a keyboard shortcut on my computer to mute the microphone when I play audio for the stream. So if I'm talking on Facebook or YouTube and and all of a sudden I'm too quiet, you'll have to shoot me a comment and be like, hey, you're muted. That means I forgot to press my keyboard shortcut. If I don't mute it, it'll double the audio and it'll sound kind of like garbage. Let's do some transcribing here. Let's get into this one here. So mute.
Maka untoahtawa ho hikape nakska tontoahtawa go kipe ispayuak. Maka untoahtawa ho hikape.
Untawatawa maga, he says. Tawatawa. I wonder what that word's tickling my brain. Untawatawa. Did we talk about this last week? Untawatawa, what that word means? The Scouts. Oh, yeah. Because, for some reason, the first word that came to mind was scout, but then I was like, wait, that means, no, nanto paitsik, nanto payu. But no, that's actually ghost scouting. Untawatawa. Untawatawa is a scout. Okay. See if I can keep that word in my brain now. So, but I'm curious. Did I use a long A? Oh, okay, yeah, so that's a short A. That's a long A. Okay, miyase. Let's do a little bit more here.
Maka untoahtawa ho hikape nakska tontoahtawa go kipe ispayuak.
Did he say gape nagskoat?
Maka untoahtawa ho hikape nakska tontoahtawa go kipe ispayuak.
Gape nagskoat. What's that last little bit? I'll just make it a little shorter here.
Nakska tontoahtawa go kipe ispayuak. Nakska tontoahtawa go kipe ispayuak.
Kipe ispayuak. That's what I'm hearing. Ispayuak. I didn't know you could say that. What does that mean even? Ispayuak, like they were affected, had an experience. Huh. Okay. I'll have to get back into the context because I'm like, if I go back a bit. Is he telling the story? I forget where we are in the story. Maybe let's go back a tiny bit. Let me go back to a spot where I recognize. We'll just listen to the last couple of minutes of the story and then hopefully that'll give us more context.
Niisogis kao niisa tipskau ton soskua teipepen paite ispiitsakaskiitaat. Egi pesohket sahatan himsatema. Ego henstogis kaigo mego heiattiwa panik. Henstogis gao ego homasa ego heipe tehtapet. Heipe pimtsa hatohe misatema. Kagi nakska tekta. Untawahtawa hu. Nehia untawahtawa. Angimana kagi papamska tsigoma. Nehia waskiksone. Egi muhte tsigmani papakanoihtahkoma otatskiwa. Ega ja kekte hohmeosi kikapito teet kikapissikutsuihkotsik. Maga kispinau jahtago teisiga kaua pamatsigi kapi vainu paisigu maisini nahkisikau. Kikapi uihtamaatsigu haisinu ahkiga ui iito samu kuhtsi epea tsiksigi. Võetigi namo emiosini ikkigo iga peosip muhteetsik. Üks sanma kiipea samu igo keegi nestoset kanstogi isega igoma kaapn tehtap tohe misatema egipne naan peepait igo ke nestoset.
So sisi guanapeo, there's that word,
Kaapin tehtaptohe, misatemo.
right? That conjugation specifically, he's talking about when he was riding that horse, right? On the third day or whatever. Tehtapit, that one was riding.
Egipna naan pepait, iko ke nestosit. Magi kostak, kikanagit, kikapmayastesi.
He was afraid to stop, eh? To take a break.
Nanto se pe no sa tego tohe. Ahpoit ki gamskagu kispin pat. Maga onto ahtawa ho hega pe nakska tonto ahtawa go ki pe ispaiwak.
Okay. So the context is helpful and relevant. Maga untuatao he, but the scouts got a nug squat that he came upon that he met the scouts, I guess. Gipe spayuak. He encountered them, I guess you'd say. Let's keep going because the next little bit will probably fill in the rest of the details here.
He pe nakska atigo he kai ko I hont kap mai tigo seta. He pe nakska atigo he kai ko I hont kap mai tigo seta.
Nugsko, nugiskoatik.
He pe nakska atigo he kai ko I hont kap.
Oh, here. Why would he say? And now I'm confused about the directionality of that. Who and it? Well, that's interesting. That actually, interesting. One more time. What's the end of that?
He pe nakska atigo he kai ko I hont kap mai tigo seta.
Go is sit is what I heard. Wa. Go sit. Go sit. What's that last word?
He pe nakska atigo he kai ko I hont kap mai tigo seta.
Kap mai go sit. Go sit. What does that mean? What does that mean, chat? Somebody help me out. Itago sit. Itago. Itago is sit. Confusing. I'll just flag that one for now and we'll come back to it. We'll come back to that one. Yeah. And then I can, because I'm going to see Wes again in a couple more weeks. And last night he was like, oh, let's go over your notes. What else do you have? And I'm like, no, we did them all. we fixed them. So I need to do more work and be ready to have you have you correct more stuff for us. So yeah, let's do the next one. We'll just keep going. See, egg sisi or egg esa? So here's another one where itteowak, it comes from itteo, which is I'm talking about that one tells somebody itteo or says something to someone itteo, itteowak, they said to him, or those ones. Giwe, I think. Giwei, I think they said.
Yksi se kiittevak kiwe.
Yeah. Giwei, go home.
Ko komu omikoa pim eto te ntau astasene ntaun pa, you know.
Omikuapim. Mikuapim. Is that long A? No. I wonder if this might be, I don't know if the possessive will be analyzed now. Omikuap. They probably don't recognize the im at the end. Oh, it's a long I. I'm hearing a aspiration.
Ko komu omikoa pim eto te ntau astasene ntaun pa, you know. Ko komu omikoa pim eto te ntau astasene ntaun pa, you know.
Something like that. Again, I don't think the spell checker will like that because it's got that, no, it just doesn't recognize they want a person's lodge to be omikuap, but this is something that, and it could very well be speaker preference, but it's something that Wes says a lot. For possessed thing, like not like things that are close to somebody, like in a possessive way, in the possessive way. Umikuapim, your kokum's lodge. But we'll flag that one as an analysis issue. Do astasene, I think he said. Astasin, but do I have the imperative form? Yeah, astasene. It's a long A, that's why. Do astasene. Donipa. Listen one more time here.
Ko komu omikoa pim eto te ntau astasene ntaun pa, you know.
Yeah.
Te tapskuuso menes tosino meis nagusien. Te tapskuuso menes tosino meis nagusien.
There's that one again in that VAI structure. CC guanapio that any stosian. For instance, you are very tired, I guess you'd say, or you're really tired. You, enistosian, that's you, enistosian. If it was me, it'd be enistosian. But if it was someone else, it'd be enistosit. Okay?
Tapskuuso menes tosino meis nagusien.
Oh, he's saying you look very tired. Esinagosian. Tapskutsoma, for instance, I guess you could say, instosianoma esinagosian, which is basically saying you look very tired. Let's just do it one more time, see if we got all of it.
Tapskuuso menes tosino meis nagusien.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the tweet. You're tired. Go to bed.
So as ni nano ginaganaga tohka nago gimsate makkapi kiwe tahitsik.
So they're gonna look over Nagato game mewak, or what's that word again?
So as ni nano ginaganaga tohka nago gimsate makkapi kiwe tahitsik.
Naktoka nak. Misuwats, I think I heard. What does that mean, Misuwats? I hear that every once in a while, if I'm hearing that right. Is it Nisawats? No. Misawats? Huh. What am I missing here? Misawats? There it is. At any rate. Yeah. At any rate. Misawats. One more time.
So asni na no ginaga na gato ka na go gimsa te makka pe kiwe tahajik.
I don't know if I'm saying. Let me listen to that one more time.
So asni na no ginaga na gato ka na go gimsa te makka pe kiwe tahajik. So asni na no ginaga na gato ka na go gimsa te makka pe kiwe tahajik.
The horses that you brought home. Pe. It's a long I. Kiwe tahajik. He said nega, but I've got this one wrong for some reason. Nagatoka nak, like to. Observe, care for, look after, but why? Hold on, my brain's breaking here. 1 second. I got to think about this.
So asni na no ginaga na gato ka na go gimsa te makka pe kiwe tahajik.
This is one of those ones where it's like Nagatoka nak Jiskwa. Might have just been because the Nianan, like these should match. Nianan ugi. Nagatoka nan is what I would expect. Nianan and Nagatoka nan. So this might have just been like a. It's either a slip of the tongue or I don't understand the word. Nagatokan. Because if it was, let's just look at what's available for these words here. Jiskwa. Hey, Tansi Darcy. Nagatokeo, which is a VAI. But can you say Nagatokoyo? You can. Nagatokoyo. So in order for us to take care of those horses, we will take care of those horses. Nianan. That would be us. That would be, let's show more. One plural. That's the 1P. And then we're looking for 1P to 3P. This is the one I would expect for that. Naganagato koananak is what I would expect. So I think that's what he's meant, but it might have just been a slip of the tongue or something because he was in the heat of the. Hey, Colin. Actually, in fact, I was just saying a few minutes ago, I actually went 2 days ago. I was in Saskatoon with the speaker who told this story originally. I recorded this in August. In the first session of we're doing 4 sessions together. Four. See, 4. I held up this many fingers. We just did our second session together in Saskatoon, and at the end of the 3rd day, I was like, hey, let's go over some of these issues I have with this transcription I'm working on, and we cleared them all out. There was like 30 or 40 of them. So I'm going to flag that one, but I think he meant Niganagato Goanak nagto guana naka. It would be this one anyway. We'll take care of them. Niga nagato guana nak is what he meant. I'm 99% certain. So it's one of those things, it's like, do you leave it the way it is? Because I will ask him. It's like, we don't speak perfectly when we speak English, right? Ever. We make mistakes all the time. We say the wrong thing all the time. And so I understand what he's saying. That's really the important thing when it comes to communication, is just like, but let's listen to the whole thing one more time and just see if there was anything else in there that we missed.
So as ni na no gin na gana ka to ka na go gim sa te makka pe ki we ta hitsik.
So Colin says, yes, the L1 always needs to be consulted according to my PhD linguist buddy. For academic stuff, sure. Me, I'm just trying to learn the language, so, I mean, I will consult him, because I'll be like, what did you say there?
Yksi se tapui. Ui o awan ga on to ahtawa ki pe ki we tsa o go he. Me satemo.
I got that first part anyway. Let's shorten it a little bit and just go through in chunks. The other thing I like to do is I'm going to slow it down to about 90%. It doesn't make the voice too funky, and it just helps me pick out the words a little bit better.
Yksi se tapui. Ui o awan ga on to ahtawa
Onetoatawak. Yeah. All right.
Ui o awan ga on to ahtawa ki pe ki we tsa o
Colin says, not for academic, for proper language and writing, for the consumer, the future learners. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think the important thing is that, like, people make mistakes when they speak all the time. NPC says, does he say Ugi before Mistatamok? Thank you. I'm sorry I missed your comment. He did, and I think we caught it. Let's actually listen to that one more time.
So as ni na no gin na gana ka to ka na go gim sa te makka pe ki we ta hitsik.
Yeah, good catch on that one. That's awesome. Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, we can only learn a language from a fluent speaker, and if we want to be able to speak properly or correctly or be understood, then we must understand how to do that. I mean, you can, and I guess we were having this conversation the other day somewhere. I can't remember what it was. It was like, and it's not to say that we shouldn't study in schools or with books or any of those things. Like, they can give us a start, but if you think about it, if you're like realistic about it, if you wanted to learn Spanish or Japanese or Korean or something, right? And even if you use, like, I don't know, I've never used Duolingo, but if you're using like a course or a book or a whatever, that will get you to a certain point. But then if you landed in Japan and you started talking to someone, you're probably going to sound funny to them, because you're going to sound like you're, learned from a book, right? Like, if you want to learn how to use the language day to day in a real world way, I'll say, then, like, we have to interact with people who speak the language. That's just it. So, well, interact with, we have to listen to. We have to listen to people who speak the language. I was talking with Wes about this yesterday, right? And just thanking him again for, like, this contribution, for this work. He was talking about having young people learning how to do these recordings on their own and stuff. And I was like, yes, this is what we write, like more recordings. Because, and this is just my opinion, I'd love to be wrong about this, but in my experience, in my opinion, listening to recordings, if you are an indigenous language learner, except for maybe a few languages where there's opportunities for lots of exposure, and I'm thinking like Maori and like Hawaii, or maybe if you live in community somewhere where there are lots of speakers and lots of communities where there aren't. For most of us, listening to recordings and watching videos, that is baked in. That's just locked in. We must do that, I think. Or when we do that, we advance. If we don't do that, then we're just waiting for opportunities. And I tell everybody, and so I'll tell all of y'all again, you know, you can't just go sit with a fluid speaker and expect them to give you language. You have to bring language with you, right? Which means you need to study, which means you need to listen, which means you need to get prepped, right? Bring your A game. Like when summer camps are coming up, like I'm studying, I'm practicing, calling people, I'm like transcribing, I'm getting ready. I want to be on my best language game for when I'm actually sitting with fluent speakers. And so just listening to this stuff is baked in. But yeah, I mean, Colin, to your point, if we're not sure about something, of course, yeah, we should go back and consult with a fluent speaker, because we don't want to just guess. That wouldn't make sense, right? And especially if, I guess especially in an academic context, but I mean, if we just learn it, also if we learn it wrong, then we would just be potentially not understood. So, all that to say, I agree with you.
We are one go on to ki peki wetsa ho.
Well, let me just move that over a little bit and listen to the rest of it.
One go on to ki peki wetsa ho go he.
Kiwe. I think that's a Kiwetsa hoil. That might be a whole different word. Let me check that. That drove them home, I guess, is what it means. But where do we? Let's see if we can find it. Kiwe disa hoil. It's kind of what I'm hearing. It's not it. There it is. Kiwe disa hoil. Yeah, that's the one. So that's like a fossilized form of that same word, eh? Which is really interesting. Oh, so here's a good example. Let's actually pick on that. Let's pick on that, because we were talking about root word learning, right? If we learn this, itisahoil, to drive someone, like push them in a specific direction, thus or thither, whatever that means. But if we take that ending, right? So if you know what itisahoil is, let's just have a look and see how many different words in Cree anyway, like end with that, right? There's actually quite a few. There's like 43 different words here. So this is really cool. So we know giwe means home, like giweo. If somebody says giwe, they're saying go home, right? So if you know what itisahoil is, and you know giwe, what that means, then when you hear giwe itisahoil, then it's like, oh, drive them home. That makes sense. So this can be a really good way to study, is to be like, okay, let's take that isahoil, and now it's like, okay, ase tisahoil. That means back, I guess. That ase must mean like back. Aesko tisahoil, to tire someone out. Interesting, right? Kapate tisahoil, send someone ashore, chase someone out of the water. So something about that kapate has to do with out of the water, maybe. Let's see if there's another one in here that we under. Gisuitisahweo, chases someone as to anger them. What's another one that I might understand? Mamu disahweo, drive them all together. Machitisahweo, drive someone to hunt. What an interesting word. You drive someone, you put them in a hunting mood, I guess. I don't know. Natisahweo, send for someone, drive someone in. So it's just kind of cool, right? Papam tsahweo, to chase someone about. Starts to give you a sense of what some of these pieces mean, right? Because we know what that itisahweo part means. Waskata tisahweo, chase someone in a circle. Like wasagam, wasaga tisahweo. Super interesting. Super interesting. Anyway. There's one more word here. Let's just go get it. It's right there.
Misatemo.
Misatemo. And I think sometimes he'll go between misatemwa, but I also hear him say mistatemwa. I hear him use both. So it's just one of those things where it's like preference in the moment, I guess. All right, let's do a little bit more.
Nestom tanaoiwagnsto. Esegi tagohta hatu tahadam satemo. Egaiko ihun.
You can hear me agreeing in the background like I'll do that. I don't know if Wes knows this yet, but he'll be telling a story and there'll be a bit in there that I don't understand. And then, he'll say about a couple of words that I do understand, and I'll be like, I'm not trying to mislead him or anything. I'm just like acknowledging that I understood something he said. Because sometimes there's been stories he's told where like, yeah, I've understood 80% of it. There's just like a few words in there I don't get. But then there'll be other stories sometimes he'll tell where it's like, man, I recognize some of those words, but there's a lot of big words in there and I'm not quite sure where we're at with this story. And then he'll change stories and I'm like, did the story change? It seems like he's talking about something else. But again, it's like high conceptual stuff where, and there's this thing that happens that's really interesting, where like the way you use words, they can have way different meanings. Like you could use a word in a story and it means something, but if you use a word, the same word, in a conceptual way, it can mean a lot more. And Nahil words tend to do that, where he'll use a handful of words and it's like, I think I understand what those mean, but then he'll translate himself in English and I'm like, man, I didn't get any of that. there's way more meaning in there than what I thought you were saying. Which is interesting sometimes. It's all part of the learning process, right? 33 horses.
Nestom tanaoiwagnsto. Esegi tagohta hatu tahadam satemo. Egaiko ihun.
I'm not sure if I'm hearing that right. Let me try that again.
Esegi tagohta hatu. Esegi tagohta hatu. Esegi tagohta hatu.
Esa egi itotahat. That's what I was hearing. Esa. YB on Twitch says that is how we count in Rocky Boy also. We use Iowag. Yep, I think I hear that commonly. Hey, can you let me know, is Twitch working now, or are you watching on something else? The comment came in on Twitch. But I don't know. I don't know. Let me know where that's at. Thanks for the comments anyway. Twitch is working great. Awesome. Hey. Tagotahat. Hey, there's the Uncle Neil. Tagoteo on Facebook. Mi kwa kan masanay gani. Yeah, thanks for that. Chisqua. Hey, man, Neil, I don't know if we're gonna do this next week. I've been meaning to ask, but I want to zoom you in on one of these, okay? I'm putting you on the spot now, just so you know, so you can't back out. Let me just listen to it one more time here.
Segi tago taha to taha nam satema. E kai ko ui hon.
E gaiga wihunet. Is that long A? Must be. Ga wihunet. All right, one more time. The whole thing this time. As Ruben would say, all right, now in one breath.
Nestum ta naoi wak nsto. Segi tago taha to taha nam satema. E kai ko ui hon.
Ga u. A guy go wihunet. He says it. Yeah, that's what it is. Which is short for o-tse, I think. Yeah. Yeah, Neil says I'm down for that. I've happened to be free. Usually Sundays. Doesn't have to be. Yeah, let's pick a night. Next Sunday's going to be weird because I'm flying back. We might have to do. Man, we just might miss next week. We'll just see how it goes. I guess the spam's got to come in from somewhere. But that'd be slick. Either we could, if I'm going to be in Edmonton, we could do it in the same spot. If we have decent internet, we could live stream, or else I can zoom you in or something like that. We'll figure out how to make that work. Yeah, we'll have a look at that in a couple weeks. That would be fun.
E gote pia ki te gagi so skinny ke toma. E gote pia ki te gagi so skinny ke toma.
E ate uskini git. Did he say ace at the end?
E gote pia ki te gagi so skinny ke toma.
Gagise. That's what he's saying. He uses lots of reduplication just like everywhere. This guy. He's like so fluent.
E gote pia ki te gagi so skinny ke toma.
All right, now let's figure out. There we go. Eate gagise uskini git. That should work. That should analyze. Let me check it. Neil says, when he says that, the guy go who and thou who shall not be named yet. That was interesting because I think when I mentioned to you before, Neil, that about getting the story of how Sweetgrass became chief, and then you mentioned like, oh yeah, I don't think he was from there. He was from somewhere else, right? I don't know if you've listened to the story or not, but he talks about that. He was from I guess what would be known today as the Crow. But in here he calls them Gakakuachiinuak, the Raven Hills people, which is interesting. So skinny get to see that worked. That totally analyzed fine. So there's some kind of spell checker error here. Gakise. And it's like the thing I would love to understand one day. The thing I would love to understand one day is like, why is that ga right there? Like, why is it there? I don't know. It's like, is it just the way you say it? It's just the way you would say it? Does it make it more like what? In a fluent speaker's mind, how does that change the meaning? Like, it's obviously very nuanced, right? There's obviously something about it, but like as a learner, we learn. We were just talking about this a bit ago. Like we learn. Oh, Neil, we have to call you Notsawis. Notsawis, Neil. I anyway, as a learner we learn about like reduplication, right? Like there's this like long reduplication, short reduplication, blah blah blah, whatever all that means. But then never, like I've never really encountered reduplication much on preverbs until I started transcribing Wes, and I'm like, why is that there? What is that? Is it just like, is it a speaker preference thing? Because he'll say stuff like he'll reduplicate everything. He'll just reduplicate everything. Like he doesn't say a natto paitsik, he says a nanto paitsik. So to go scouting, right? A natto paitsik. He doesn't say it that way. He says a na natto pai. But the way he pronounces it is a nanto paitsik. So it's almost like this collapses, a nanto paitsik. And if you go back through, or if you've been like, transcribing with us, right? He uses so much reduplication all over the place, and it just like comes so naturally. Rene La Riviere, can I say a few words? I like an invite. You want me to? I wouldn't be able to. Actually, yeah, if I invited you on, it should pick up on the rest of the stream. That should be fine. Is it related to reduplication, or what are your few words about? Give me a sense of what. Convince me you're not going to pitch Bitcoin or something. Hey, Mananto Bro, Brandon Lewis, Lemaire, Yap Mia Sananma. So how do I get Renee on here? Tisqua. Mark, block, pin, reply. I don't know, how do I even, can I invite you or something? Like, I don't know how to do this. Reply, translate, pin, mark, viewer, mute, block. I can block, that's probably not what you want. Man, I don't know how to do this. Oh, here we are, accept, yeah, come on in. Try that out. Dance, Renee. I gotta crank you up here, so I'll hopefully you're coming through okay for the on the other stream. We'll see how it goes.
Hello everyone. My name is Rainy Sias, and I'm from Pine House Lake, Saskatchewan. I have elder what told me about a land what this one guy brought. He walked on our ice all the way to his cabin. He didn't know what was wrong. Why? How do you say this in Cree? He moved. He walked to his cabin and said, "Manato magigay past the sun." We didn't have a gun or nothing.
Yeah.
We could all walk a mile. He didn't have no drinks with him. And what the elders told him, every winter you'll see a bird always at your window. And when I woke up, I seen a bird at my window. My God, and what the elders say, we like, we're not have a lake, like late winter or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so spot so ma right now. Stop. Nippy. They say we're gonna have next winter. We're gonna have another 5 years. That's true. That's true.
Mm.
I respect my elders, whoever's like if you have elders on here, and if you see, I'm if I think I'm able to do this content, but I'm a Christian, yeah. At the door, dark sky black. It's always pitch black. See one star on our side of north. But that one star, you know what that means? I just don't know what that means.
Hmm.
I had an elder
Yeah.
come. I go visit her and some nilagay ko mi kuya boy. Tapos she tells me, I always say, what does it mean if you see a dark sky? Is it gonna snow? Yeah,
Hey, Renee.
Snow.
I'm having a little trouble with the audio that's coming in, and I appreciate you coming on the live. I do want to get back to the transcription though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and sharing some thoughts about that, and I hope you'll, if you wouldn't mind, drop some more of that in the comments. But just while we have a little bit of time here tonight, I'd like to get back to what we're working on. Yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Yeah, mistas.
Okay, muestas. That just made me think though, you know what would be cool? I think Colin said that too, right? Would be fun to do, what do you call it? Yeah, I think that was part of the thing, is it was like, Renee, when you come on, the wind was blowing on the mic and stuff, and I was having a pretty hard time understanding what you were saying about half the time. See, I turned this invite thing on. I don't know how to shut it off. Host. I don't want that. I think it changed my live type. I think it would be cool to do, oh there, I'll shut that off. Did that fix it? No, it still says invite on the side. That's fine. I just made everybody's screen smaller, that's all. I'll learn how to do TikTok one of these days. I think it would be super cool to do like a conversational something. I don't know if TikTok is the right place for it. Like it would be cool to do a live stream chat or something. Yeah, TikTok, how to TikTok, exactly. Well, I've got these invite things on the side, and I'm like, how do I make them go away? Because it makes everybody's screeners smaller, doesn't it? Oh, here we are. Panel. Switch. Yay, I figured it out. Okay. Hey, Renee, I appreciate you coming on. I hope you'll drop some of that in the chat, because I didn't quite understand all of it with the sound quality. And we'll come back to that. I'd like to work on transcription a bit more while we have time. Hey, Mananto, Kiamaga. Yeah, and with the sound quality, it was probably even worse on the other channels, because it was just coming through my laptop mic. I'm in Edmonton this week, so I've got a pretty hacked together setup here. Let's do a little bit more while we got some We got some folks. I'm going to flag this one here. We were just talking about that reduplication. If anybody has thoughts on that, I'm surprised Uncle Neil, notes always. I didn't chime in on that one. I was kind of hoping you would. For now, I'm just going to chalk it up to that's just the way you say it, or it's like, can't think of a good example in English, but I'm sure there's things that we say all the time where it's like, why do you say it that way? And that's just kind of the way you do. This one I'm going to mark as spell checking issue because it should just work. Let's do a little bit more here. Yeah, Neil says it's just a form of speech, which that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's like, it's just the way you say it. It maybe makes it flow better. Maybe I'm like over analyzing it, right?
Ko te pia ki te kagi so skinny ke toma.
And I guess when I listen to it and I don't think about what it would mean in a little, like in some sense, it feels like it's emphasizing the fact that it's emphasis on the fact that he's becoming his time as an Oskinigu is like coming to an end. Neil, I know, I'm slowly learning this too. Neil says, pretty well everyone I know who's a fluent speaker reduplicates every single verb, and then they use just PIM everywhere. Wasn't there a joke on Facebook at one point where it's just like, just say uma after every word? Just say uma. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, I guess. And then there's Tepiak again. I just made a TikTok about this, and man, I've looked this up 4 times today. Why can't I just get this to stick in my brain? It just won't stay. It's because it kind of means so many things. At any rate, simply, merely, the most of any, the only things. Like most of these don't make sense to me, I guess. At any rate, Egua, and at any rate, I don't know. We'll just keep going.
Na mo I ka ki ai toa no a sai na pe o te ki sini wit. You see.
There you go. Sorry about that. Thank you. I have to mute my laptop microphone when I play back the recording. Otherwise, it'll echo. And I forgot to unmute. Sorry about that. Thank you for just say it again. If I'm talking but you can't hear me, it's because I'm muted. Just mention it again. Yeah, 100%. We don't talk perfectly. We just don't. I mean, I'm sure people like if somebody transcribed this conversation right now, they struggle through some of the same things because we don't speak perfectly in any context, honestly. Maybe in like some speech or academic contexts, perhaps. Like there are high speech. Most languages have a form of high speech. And actually what's really interesting is, I was thinking about this because I re-listened to all of the recordings I have of Wes on YouTube right now on the way back from Saskatoon. So like for, I don't know, 3.5 hours straight, I just listened to these recordings. And in certain parts of the story when he wanted to emphasize things, he started enunciating every word like very perfectly and specifically. It was like a way of enunciating. Hey Neil, I had myself muted by accident. The Facebook stream should be working again. I have to mute whenever I play one of these regions. I have to mute my laptop microphone. Otherwise, you get double playback and it echoes. So yeah, let's finish this block.
Namo iwika ki ai toa no a sai na pe o te ki. Namo iwika ki ai toa no a sai na pe o te ki. Namo iwika ki ai toa no a sai na pe o te ki sini wit. You see.
So what I'm hearing is that's what I think I'm hearing. Wika ki ituanu, but I could be wrong about that.
Namo iwika ki ai toa no a sai na pe o te ki sini wit. You see. Namo iwika ki ai toa no a sai na pe o te ki sini wit. You see. Namo iwika ki ai toa no a sai na pe o te ki sini wit. You see.
So, I have never heard those used together before. Wes uses this. Neil, you told me about this a while ago. That ga, like there's. Let's go over to our document for a minute. And this was confusing to me because I'd never really heard it. But there's ga, right, which can exist in both the independent and the conjunct, and they sort of mean different things, like nega mitsun, right? I will eat. I'm gonna eat. I will eat. Like it's going to happen. But then there's ga mitsoyan, which is like impossible to translate on its own. It's literally like me to eat, like for me to eat, me to eat. Gamitsoyan. But there's a bunch of ways you can say this. Colin, that's a different one. That's ga mitsoyan, when I eat. Okay, that's a totally different one. Ga mitsoyan. I'm still talking about ga mitsoyan, for me to eat, to eat. It's talking about me, like nimi teinta mitsoyan, I like to eat. But there's 4 ways that I've heard this. Ga mitsoyan. Then there's da mitsoyan, that's regional. Then there's gitta mitsoyan, again regional. And then there's, so actually there's 5. Then there's, I've never heard this, I think, I've only read it. Ditta mitsoyan, I think I read that in a book somewhere. Same thing, these are all variations of the same thing, but the way Wes says this is gikka mitsoyan, and he says it regularly, over and over and over and over again. So all of these are the same as this one here. So that's sort of like the second ga. And then there's ga, which is when I eat, or when I ate, could be either. And then there's another one that Neil told me about this, but I'd never heard it before. Ne ga mitsun. And this one would be I would eat. I guess you'd interpret it that way. This is called the hypothetical. I would eat. I guess you'd say it that way. And the way I heard it today, he was talking about ga itueo. I think is the context I heard it in. Ga doyo. He said it like super clearly too. It's one of the things I like about Wes is he speaks so clearly. So we have like 4 different ga. There's like ga, like ngamitsun, I will eat. Gamitsoyan, for me to eat me, however you want to interpret that. Ga mitsoyan, when I eat, and then ga, and I don't even know if you can use this in the conjunct, but this is what they call a hypothetical, and I've only heard Wes say it. But Neil's talked about this before, so I know other people use it. So if we go back to our transcription, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm hearing here. But then ga gi, I've never heard that. For sure. I've never heard that before. Neil, do you have thoughts on this one?
Namo iwika ki ai toa no sai na peo te ki sini wit. You see. Namo iwika ki ai toa no sai na peo te ki sini wit. You see.
And the way I think I understand this, it wouldn't be said that he was already of age, he was already a man, or he was already grown. He was old enough, I guess you would say. Right? That's sort of the way I understand it. That word ituanu would be it is said. Ituanu. There's 2 ways. Ituanuan or ituanu would be the 2 ways I would understand that, I guess. Or that I think you could say that. Ituanu, ituanuan. That's reduplication. This, yeah, this is like such a, I don't know. Neil, have you ever heard that before? I'm going to play it one more time.
Namo iwika ki ai toa no sai na peo te ki sini wit. You see. Namo iwika ki ai toa no sai na peo te ki sini wit. You see.
Yeah, so interesting. I'm going to flag it because I don't even know what to do with it. Geseniwit. I think this is Geseniwit, just for spelling purposes. Yeah, Geseniwit. That long E can sound, it can change a lot in terms of, oh, it's short I. That's what he's saying. Geseniwit. Interesting. I'm just going to flag that. I want to talk with Wes. I'll just mark it in red for now because I want to go back and talk with Wes about that and be like, in some cases I've asked him like very specific things and asked him to like pick something apart that he said, and he's done a really great job. And sometimes I'll ask him and he'll just interpret it and that's all I get. So that's kind of what it is. Noreen says Mijase. I hope I'm saying that right. Command. That'd be Mi'kmaq, right? Mi'kmaq? Mijase. Command or I eat. Interesting. And then this one. Oh, I'm going to ruin it. I'll try though. Mijasungwa. Mijasungwa. Eat imperative but with an emphasis. Interesting. Hey, that's Janelle. I'm going to play this since you just joined. Janelle, have you ever heard this before? This particular, this picking this apart. We ga ki. That ayetuanu, I know what that means, but this, what I understand is like the theoretical. I'll just play it quick.
Namo iwika ki ai toa no sai na peo te ki sini wit. You see.
Super interesting. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay.
Maka, he tako te san mata pues. Maka, he tako te san mata pues.
pretty straightforward. Let's just pick a chunk here.
Kapetipsk. Ega kapegisegau. Kapetipsk. Ega kapegisegau.
That is a short A. I thought it was. Oh yeah, gape. Yeah, gape. Gapetipisk. It should be two. Yeah, that makes sense.
Egin patso squategies sasapo.
I think what happens is we have a secure link that we use to load that up, and I think it expires. So let me just reload that. Let's have another listen to that one. Thankfully, whenever you play something, it will reload in the exact same spot.
Egin patso squategies sasapo huamets.
Oh yeah, I remember this from Egin Pat So Squats Egi Sa Poquamit. I wonder if that's, oh, must be short O. Let me just listen to that one more time, make sure I didn't miss anything.
Egin patso squategies sasapo huamets.
Yeah, it's the sa I'm hearing.
Egin patso squategies sasapo huamets.
It almost sounds like there's is in there. I could be wrong though. Let me do it one more time.
Egin patso squategies sasapo huamets.
It totally sounds like it's in there. I think Aegiasis is Sapogwamit. I think.
Baba,
So
are you almost done?
yeah, shortly here. Yeah, maybe another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll. Yeah,
Yeah,
10,
we'll be back then.
10 or 15 minutes. I'm gonna put that in there because I think that's what I'm hearing.
Egin patso squategies sasapo huamets.
There's definitely a beat of some kind in there.
Igo ketegin estoset.
Yego kitagwe. Iginestosit. I think he says. Yeah. One more time.
Igo ketegin estoset.
Alright, here's a chunk right here. We'll do that bit there and see.
Maki saanaki tahto ego hewa panik he muanska te papa mahkamkset. Maki saanaki tahto ego hewa panik he muanska te papa mahkamkset.
One more time.
Maki saanaki tahto ego hewa panik he muanska te papa mahkamkset.
Two more times.
Maki saanaki tahto ego hewa panik he muanska te papa mahkamkset.
Did he say Bim in there? Apem one Scott. Am I hearing that right? Tisquat. Let's make it shorter so it's.
He muanska te papa mahkamkset.
And I'm like, Apem one Scott. I didn't even know, like, you could use it. Sometimes I think fluid speakers just throw stuff in there for fun. Like, not that you even think about it, you just say it. But then I'm like, how does that change the meaning? Bim. It might take me the rest of my life to understand Bim. What's that last word?
Ik heb once gehad te papa mahkam gezet. Ik heb once gehad te papa mahkam gezet. Ik heb once gehad te papa mahkam gezet.
Gamksit. Papama gamksit. I wonder if that's a whole word on its own. I'm pretty sure, because I asked him about this other one. I think it was a Gisa gamksit. Gisa gamksit. But like agamksu is not, you can say itagamksu, that works. Oh, it's a short A, itagamksu. And the one that we were looking at was gisa gamksu, which is to finish what you're doing, I guess. But I'm hearing papama gamksu, which is interesting.
Ik heb once gehad te papa mahkam gezet.
And I don't think you can just say ahkamksu on its own. I'm guessing. I'll just flag it. I'll let people who are smarter than me figure that one out. I know it, like, it's clear as day. I know exactly what he's saying, but I just don't know if ahkamiksu can be used on its own, or if that, yeah, interesting. Yeah, interesting. Okay. There's actually another chunk here, so let's do that too.
Papa mahkam gezet. En toa pen geto hotema.
Ntuapin gate. What did he say?
Papa mahkam gezet. En toa pen geto hotema.
Ohotema. Ohe. Ohotema. His horses. Short O. Ohotema. Which nowadays you might understand is like that person's dog, I guess. But in this context, it's the horses that he brought back, eh? Wapen gate. Isn't that not in there? Am I hearing that wrong?
Papa mahkam gezet. En toa pen geto hotema.
Wouldn't be Wapingate. Wapingate? No, that would. Wapingate. No, it's one word. The Wapingate. Right. I knew this before. I've done this already. The Wapingate. To go check on it, right? Yeah. To go check up on it. The Wapingate. The Wapingate. Otema. I understand, like dog is tim, but if you say my dog, for whatever reason, just the way the language is, so tim is dog, but my dog is nitim. And so in this context, otema. But also, and we understand horse nowadays is misatim or mistatim. But in some contexts or some stories, I've also heard atim mean horse. Because originally, I believe that's, or no, I think dogs were here before. I can't remember. But it can be used that way in both contexts anyway. In this case, otema means his horses. And because it's otema, it could be one, it could be many. There's that iwa paniek, as it was, when it was dawn, I guess, when it was getting light out, would you say? Let's listen to that whole thing one more time and make sure I didn't miss anything.
Maki saanaki tahto ego heva panik he monska te papa mahkamkset. En toa pen getu hutema.
That eate papa mahkamiksit. He went about doing his things, I guess. I guess you'd say that. He went about his doings. As dawn broke, maybe you'd say. He as he woke up, he went about doing his stuff and checked on his horses, I guess. All right, let's do. We got time for a couple more.
Hektahan hikagi skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto. Hektahan hikagi skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto.
Yeah, there's a word in there in the middle I can't quite get.
Hektahan hikagi skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto.
Danmatatuag, it sounds like. What does he say there?
Skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto.
It sounds like Danmatatuan, but I don't recognize that. But I wonder if he's trying to say Dan or if it's a variation of that or something. One more time.
Skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto.
Nistomitano. What did I do wrong there? Spelt 30 wrong. Nistomitano. Nistomtano. Yeah. Nistomitano. I think I do that every time too. Nistomtano Iowagnisto. Pretty sure he said 32.
Skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto.
Just that part in the middle, I don't understand what that word is.
Hektahan hikagi skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto.
It sounds like Tuan. Okay, I'm just gonna flag it. Danma. Let's actually hold on. Oh, Danma. Danmatahto. I think this is what he's saying, but it sounds kind of like Danmatahtuan. Let me listen to it one more time. I'm being silly by picking this apart way too much.
Hektahan hikagi skehtähtään matahtoan hei pesvaat nistom tanoi wagnisto.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But I will flag it and we'll ask. Oh, I see. That should be Danmatahto. I'm still going to flag it. We'll run it by Wes. We'll do our due diligence. Be like, what? What does that mean? Yeah. Okay, let's do a couple more, and then we're getting to the end of our stream here. I hope this has been okay on TikTok. You're just kind of looking at a chunk of my screen. It is what it is. Hopefully, oh, you know what we should do? Am I at the place where I can reapply? I can try again in 26 minutes. I can reapply to restream. So there's that.
Echigo magagi tagohtahat. Echigo magagi tagohtahat.
Tagohtahat. I wonder if you'd say like arrived with or had them arrive. Tagohtahill. I know what I know, but I don't. Oh, arrives with. Takes someone to arrive, brings someone to a destination. Arrives bringing someone. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. CC Gwen. I'm glad it's working. Hopefully I get my streaming access back and then I can do because it's nice when the whole desktop the audio is definitely way better that way. Instead of I'm right now playing it out my speakers and just my phone's picking it up, so it is what it is.
Ki mamaskata mogaisinoak.
Ki mamaskata mogaisinoak. I see you work. I seen work. I see work. You know what's interesting about this word sometimes?
Ki mamaskata mogaisinoak.
I wonder if you'd say, the people were blown away. Sometimes he says, oh, and I should look that up. I see you. But sometimes he says very specifically, I see you. Like not I see you, I see you. And I'm like, is that just emphasis? Variation? I don't know. Easy to overthink these things, but I'm like, why did he say it that way? It's so interesting. All right.
Awasaso. Apeitakamksit.
Kape itakamksit. There's that ita long A. Kamiksit. That's a child that's done this. That's, oh, maybe it is a short A. Yeah. It's a child that has, how do you interpret that? Itakamsu. Like, done this, basically, yeah. Does things. It's a child that's done this. Brandon says, tomorrow I will try to upload some audio clips and do some transcribing. Miasin. Yep, do it. If you were, let's do one more and then we'll just chat for a couple minutes before we shut it down. Pick a long one.
Ego hugi chihta wagoge. Kagi sipwete, chek kagi no tepnt sahata.
I just listened to this today, so I know exactly what he's gonna say. Spell that wrong every time. He's gonna say, but these the warriors that went out scouting, they didn't bring back anything.
Ego hugi chihta wagoge. Kagi sipwete, chek kagi no tepnt sahata. Ego hugi chihta wagoge. Kagi sipwete, chek kagi no tepnt sahata.
Kagi no te pim It is what? It is what? See a sa at the end there?
Ego hoki chihta wagoge. Kagi sipwete, kagi no te pintsa hata.
Sounded like a what at the end. It is a what? Kagi no te pim tis a what? It is a what? I'm sure that's spelled right. It is who? Yeah, it is a who. Oh, the E. There it is. Yep. Let's leave it at that. I'm gonna flip my camera around and we'll just visit for a minute while we wrap up. I hope you find this interesting. I've been chatting with Wes about this process, transcribing, and honestly, so if we have any language learners on the live, I know some of you are, but anybody who's just kind of like creeping, hanging out, what they call that? Or no, lurking. That's it, not creeping. All you creeps know. Anybody's just lurking. If you're a language learner, if you get the opportunity, if you know a fluent speaker, you know your kukum or maybe a relative or something, just take your phone and ask them, you know, hey, would you just tell me a short story, like some, doesn't even have to be anything, something simple, what you did last week, something, and then go and transcribe it. The software's free. You could find it at kiano.net. Just go try it out. It doesn't even have to be in Nihiuiwin in Plainscree. You can use this for any language. And even if you don't know the spelling, that's fine. Just go and try and figure out what those words are, right? And then go back. Like, oh, I know that one. But then you can mark the ones. Then you can go back to your kukum or your whoever you talk to and be like, what do these mean, right? That actively working towards understanding those words, because, you know, as we see through this process getting in there, I mean, aside from some of the phrases that are even like really complicated that you could have long discussions about, just figuring out, you know, or having those conversations around like, well, why is it phrased that way, or why would you say it that way? How does it change the meaning? Not just so we can understand, but also so we can begin to damatia timuya damatia timu stoya kik you know, kito asim sinuak kito temnuak anybody that we would want to tell stories to, especially our kids, obviously, because that's who we're trying to pass the language on to. But take that, take the opportunity, and I think, and this is just going to be like my mission for the next little while, is just like convincing and teaching people how to record if they don't know, right? It doesn't have to be, I keep this little, I'll show you, I think this, you don't have to use this, but I keep this little microphone in my, it's a little mic right here, got it off Amazon. I keep it in my laptop bag. I have it with me all the time. It plugs right into the bottom of my phone. I use it for TikTok a lot. So if you listen to my TikToks, I'm using this little mic pointed at my face. And then this is a windsock. So if you're outside in the wind, you put this on, and it. That guy, was it Reed or Renee, was on earlier, and you could hear all that like sound of the wind or whatever. This will help with that, eh? If you're outside and it's windy, this will help cut that down so it's not quite so bad. But if you're inside, I mean, and even if you don't have one of these, I mean, just your iPhone or your Android phone, that's fine. Just like you're this far away, listen to your room. Like, is there a fridge running in the background? Or there like dogs, cats, or kids, or whatever? Try to find somewhere quiet and then just record a little story and then go work on it. Because in my experience, like, tapskuts I notsawis and no. Uncle Neil was here. And I remember not that long ago when, because I'm over in West Kelowna, right? But I showed up, and then I heard Neil just like talk, which is something that he never used to do a lot of. Like his Cree was always really good because he's about 6 or 7 years ahead of me, right? It was always really good. But then all of a sudden I came out, and I think I went to one of his classes or something, and like he listened to something, and I was like, man, I didn't barely even pick anything up from that, and like he just knew exactly what it was because he worked on it so much, eh? Like, and everybody I know has any has any, I don't want to say skill, but like is able to gaski tata nita nihiuit, is able to speak the language, has spent time on it. And I think Neil said that too. You can tell when somebody spends a lot of time on the language because all of a sudden their language just, it goes in leaps and bounds. But it's hours and hours and hours. And so then the question is, where do you get that? If you don't have access, you can go to my site, kiano.net. You can find stuff on YouTube or whatever. But even better yet, if there are people from your community, right, especially if you grew up hearing it or whatever, start working on that, because that'll be your head start, right? That'll be your something you're already a little bit familiar with. And also, like, we're in this place where it's like, what's your language plan? What community are you from, and what's your language plan, right? Because like I think they used to think over the last maybe 15 or 20 years that, you know, if we look at like Nehiuiwin, like the Cree language from coast to coast, and maybe Anishinaabemowin are the two languages that are like the most represented. We have maybe the most fluent speakers, but even like all of the fluent speakers I know, most of them are grandparents, right? We don't have a lot of babies that I know of being born in the language. Further up north, maybe, like there was those young people from Fox Creek, was it? There were some young kids that were fluent, and that was cool, right? But that's sort of the exception at this point. So studying a recording or something for a lot of us is baked in. And also, I think about like, there are a lot of people who did work in the past to do a lot of recordings. I think about like, say, Tyrone Tutusis. There's other archives and stuff out there. And it's never been easier to record than now. Like, it's never been easier to record than, like, you can, if you, like, a couple $100, you can get a ridiculous amount of, like, you can get equipment and microphones and like all of this stuff. You don't need any of that. Like, if you got a phone, just go record with it. But like, I think these little mics are like $100, right? And they sound great, right? It's never been easier to record. And so, in my opinion, if you know somebody who's willing to tell you stories and you can record them, do it, right? Record your language as much as possible. And I know that's hard, and there's a lot of people that don't want to be recorded, or they like, oh, well, I don't really know what I would say, or, you know, I don't really have any stories or something, so it can be challenging that way, right? But if you're able, just get some recordings for yourself to work on, right? And if you're using the program, reach out to us and let us know, hey, how can we make this better? I'm starting to think about language plan. What's our language plan? Do we have, hold on, Colin. Oh, I missed some comments. I'm sorry. Noreen says, what's this program? Yeah, let me turn my camera on, Noreen. Sorry, I missed your comment. I was looking at my face and I wasn't looking at comments. Let me turn this around, flip camera. So you can go here. This is my site here, kiano.net. Spin that a bit. There you go. Kiano.net. If you go there, let me make that bigger. No, that didn't even get bigger. That's silly. There. So just grab a screenshot of that. Kiano.net. That's my site. If you go there, the first app we launched in August of this year, so just like not even 2 months ago, is called Story Transcribing. So if you got a screenshot, if you go there, Keanu Transcribe, this is the first app that we launched. We have a couple more apps that we're working on right now around intermediate language learning. They're designed more so, yeah, intermediate language learning and for like self-guided learning. The mobile app, which is around capturing phrases from fluent speakers, we're hoping to launch in probably the spring. The database I'll talk about more later. This is really dependent on having a spell checker kind of, but it's just like lets us search. It lets us search through transcriptions. But yeah, you can get started here. It doesn't. You can transcribe Mi'kmaq right now. We don't have a spell checker for Mi'kmaq, but maybe we can get started on one. I don't know. Maybe we can find people who are working on it and work together on something. Would be kind of cool. Mooncree says, that's why the government wanted to say, yeah, we are super divided. Yeah, shy and lack of confidence is definitely a thing. And again, you don't want to like force people or anything. But, I usually just say like, hey, I know like this would be, I'm not going to share this with anyone if you don't want me to. And really, I want to be able to study what you said so that when I come back, we can have another conversation. I can ask you questions about this, right? Mooncree says we can have all sorts of material, but we can only learn by speaking. We can only learn from fluent speakers, basically. And if we practice speaking, like it's interesting because just listening and understanding and speaking use different parts of the brain, which is really interesting. So practicing, like speaking practice, is definitely a thing. Colin says, my PhD linguist buddy. You're going to have to get a name for this person's because you keep name dropping them, but there's no name. PhD linguist buddy is an extremely fluent second speaker. The elders love him. That's cool. I'd love to try and get there. I'm convinced if I can just listen enough and study enough and spend enough time with fluent speakers, then yeah, I think you could probably get there. I don't think you have quite the same pathways as like if you come up with it, you know, obviously from birth. But yeah, I'm hoping we can get there. Noreen, I can go in with another language? Yes. How about double vowel niche? Yes. I think double vowel, you can do it. You don't, when you go into transcribe, it's not a plain scree app. When you go into transcribe something, you can use it for English. You can use it for whatever you want. The core functionality is you upload something, you make the little boxes, and you type in what you hear. That's all there is to it. I'm going to be speaking with, so I don't know if there's a spell checker for Anishinaabe, but if there is one, we can probably incorporate it. And if there's not, then it's always like, who do we talk to get started on that? What does that look like? Colin says, also language shame from residential schools. Yeah, that's a big thing. I talked to one old guy at the fasting camp this summer, and he understands perfectly, and every once in a while he'll speak a little bit, but he says every time I try to speak, he says it's like muscle memory, because they really punished him badly in residential school. He's like, I try to speak, but it's like muscle memory. I just can't. It's pretty hard. Oh, we got the name drop now. I think you said that before, Dr. Brendan Gishgeton. Yeah, that's cool. Interesting. Again, it comes down to just spending a ton of time in the language, right? Lots and lots of time. Even the second trip to Saskatchewan, same thing. Like at the end of the fourth day, again, I just had more language. And when I left, I didn't want it to stop. I didn't want it to stop. So then I had this rental car with the Bluetooth or whatever, and I plugged my phone in, and I just pulled up that YouTube channel. Actually, I'll pull it up, I'll pull it up for the stream. Gisqua. Get to the right channel here. I just put this on, and I'm like, man, I got to get busy and put more stories on here because I got lots more. We've barely scratched this. I've got a couple hours on here. View your channel. This one. There. So basically, I just put these on and listen to them, and there's probably just over probably 2.5 hours worth of stories there right now, which was good. So I listened to all of that, and then after I listened to that, it's like, geez, well, maybe I should just. So then I pulled up those Tyrone Tutusa tapes, and I started listening to those, like the ones. Some of them are hard to hear because their recording was on an old tape machine. Just like cranked them up in the car, and then I just listened and tried to be like, okay, do I understand what's going on? And when I got back, I was like, I just want to do this all the time. I just want to listen to stories now, like pretty much as I can, and then transcribe as much as I can. I think this is, like, for me anyway, this is the way, right? Then when I go back, then I'm going to be like, what does that word mean? Like, you keep saying this word, or you keep saying this whatever. Like, what does that mean? Right? That's kind of the way this process has to go for me anyway. Oh yeah, this Brendan spent over a decade with elders in tandem with getting his PhD. Yep. That'd be one way to do it for sure. Yep, for sure. Anyway, well, I think we're going to start wrapping it up. It's almost kagam tata tapayagan. When we were in Ruben's class, ay na neo tipayaganus pamoyes kagam tata tapayagan. We'd have to before he'd let us go on break, we had to tell him exactly what time it was. And we never learned to count past 30 because you'd either say miaskam or pamoyes. Yeah. Okay, any last questions or thoughts on the stream? Thanks for tuning in. We've got some viewers on, I guess we got Twitch working, so that's good. Hopefully, I wonder if our 26 minutes has been up. I should check my restream and see if we can reapply for TikTok live. In 4 minutes, I can reapply. So maybe on the next one. Oh yeah, I just noticed this. I got one person on Twitch, I got 2 on Facebook, and 1 on YouTube. That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. We're just gonna stream on all the platforms moving forward. Hopefully TikTok works out, but if that creates more accessibility for folks, then yeah, Marie, Tapwe, Miasen, for sure. Colin, I learned from learning structure than listening to get complex understanding. Yeah, I think that worked for me too. Like I dug into the grammar right away to get that out of the way because there's a lot there in Niue, and I'm sure Anishinaabe one is like very similar. Yeah, that was that chart that we pulled up earlier, right? Like there's a lot, and that's not even the whole thing. Honestly, there's a bit more than that, but it's a lot. I spent like a couple years carrying that around in my back pocket, just like studying it and trying to get it. And now most of it's up here, and then understanding it is one thing, but then using it, like starting to use that, like, okay, in daily use. And honestly, listening a lot, listening to the way and studying stories is helping me with a lot of that. It's helping me be able to remember and produce those more fluently, because it's not just I'm trying to remember a word and then trying to remember an inflection. It's almost like, I don't want to say like reciting a phrase, but it's like it just comes naturally because the more you listen, the more you internalize, and then like you can't memorize a language, right? You can't memorize it. We want to internalize it, and we internalize it by like being in it a lot. And those pathways wiring, so just intuitively we say these things. Some comments coming in. Yeah, appreciate you on the stream. We'll be on all the platforms. You can go back on, especially on the YouTube, and I'm sure Twitch too. I was downloading the lives off TikTok and putting them on YouTube, but now I'm just going live on YouTube, and I don't have to do that. It's kind of nice. Aha, nas komunista, sisigwanapeo. Ah, 4 feathers. Namiwayan, tapwe, kiyamaga. Tansatawya. Yep. Colin says, Minu, holy, my English is bad. Minu, dibigad, Minu, niban. Thank you. Kista. Hey, Liam, I'm good. Tapwe. Yep, namiwayan. Miwasin, tapwe. Okay, it's almost 9 o'clock, 4 minutes. I'm going to shut the live down. Hey, I don't know if we'll be on next Sunday because I'll be flying back from Winnipeg. We fly back at about 5, so if I do go on, it'll be late. Maybe just a short stream next week. Otherwise, it'll be the week after that. Ay, kanaskum tinawaw kakyoga pigyogoye kakyoga wita pimik wita tos skimiek that came to work with me. Anuska tipskag. Mistegi we egisitayak. We finished a lot tonight. So mia sinanma. Mr. Hetoski win. Tagaki pitama. We kicked ass, I'll say. Oh, yeah, and Colin, I'll see you on, like, I don't know, Friday or something. Ed says, interpret the story, The 3 Little Pigs. Yeah, I don't know that one in the language. Yeah, Colin, I'll be speaking in Toro. I'll lug around my dictionary like this. What word was that? Aha, okay, we're going to shut her down there. Thanks for coming out. Miutipskansik, miunipag, miuguamik. Aha, we'll talk to you next week. Expitama. Yeah, and the other stream. Have a good night, everyone.